Fascinating detail. Okay, so back to the main event, the genetics. What tools did they use to analyze his ancestry?
They used a standard toolkit for population genetics, things like principal component analysis or PCA, which helps visualize genetic relationships between populations.
Great.
Also, admixture analysis, which models an individual's genome as a mix of different ancestral components. And QPADM, another method for testing and quantifying ancestry proportions from different source populations.
So standard tools, but applied to this unique ancient Egyptian genome. What did they find? What's the big reveal about his ancestry?
This is where it gets really interesting. The analysis showed his ancestry wasn't simple at all, it was a
A
mix.
mix, okay.
The majority, about 77.6%, clusters closest to North African Neolithic populations. Specifically, it looks quite similar to genomes they've recovered from a Middle Neolithic site in Morocco.
Okay, so that fits with the idea of local North African roots continuing from earlier periods.
Exactly. It suggests significant continuity within North Africa into Egypt. That part wasn't totally unexpected, maybe.
But there's a but, isn't there?
There's a big but. The remaining 22.4%, roughly, couldn't be explained by North African ancestry alone.
So where did it come from?
The models point strongly towards the Eastern Fertile Crescent. We're talking Mesopotamia, the Levant, Anatolia region.
Wow, over a fifth of his ancestry from that far east. During the Old Kingdom.
Yes, genetically similar to ancestry found in places like Anatolia and the Levant during the Neolithic and Bronze Age. And crucially, no single source population could explain his genome. It was definitively a mix.
That's quite something. So it wasn't just pods and ideas traveling, but people too. Significant numbers of people, it sounds like.
That's what this genetic evidence directly implies. It suggests that the connections between Egypt and the Eastern Fertile Crescent involved actual human migration, contributing genetically to the early Egyptian population.
It really turns that isolated Egypt idea on its head for the Old Kingdom.
It certainly challenges it very directly. People were moving, bringing their genes along with cultural innovations.
Did the study look beyond this one individual? Did they compare him to later Egyptians?
Yes, they did. They compared his genome to previously published data from later periods in Egypt and also to modern Egyptians.
What did that show? Any shifts over time?
Definitely. By the third intermediate period, so maybe 700, 500 BCE, there's a noticeable increase in ancestry related to the Bronze Age Levant. In some models, it goes up to nearly 65%.
A huge jump. What could explain that?
Well, it might be linked to known historical events, things like the proposed Canaanite expansion during the Bronze Age, or maybe the period of Hyksos rule in Egypt, who came from the Levant. It suggests more waves of interaction and migration.
So the genetic story of Egypt wasn't static even after the Old Kingdom. And what about today? How do modern Egyptians fit in?
Modern Egyptian genetics are, as you might expect, even more complex, a real mosaic.
Made up of
Ancestry related to groups like the Nuwayrat individual and those Neolithic Moroccans that makes up a chunk, maybe 30 to 75%. Then there's the Bronze Age Levant component, maybe 12 to 57%,
Right.
but also significant contributions from more recent migrations. Sub-Saharan Africa features prominently ancestry related to East Africans, like the ancient Ethiopian Moda genome, makes up perhaps 7 to 56%.
Wow, that's a huge range.
It varies, and also West African related ancestry, maybe 5 to 52%. It shows a long history of connections and movements across the continent and beyond, shaping the population we see today.
A truly dynamic genetic history. So, stepping back, what are the big implications of this study?
Well, first, it proves it can be done. We can get ancient whole genomes from early dynastic Egypt if the preservation conditions are right. That pot burial might be a clue for finding more samples.
Yet opens a door that seemed pretty firmly shut.
Absolutely. Second, as we've discussed, it seriously challenges the idea of early Egypt being genetically isolated. It provides strong evidence for human migration alongside the spread of things like farming the Neolithic package.
So people moving brought those changes, at least in part.
It looks that way. The Nuwayrat genome is a concrete piece of evidence supporting older ideas based on skeletal and dental shapes that hinted at links to both North Africa and West Asia.
It connects those dots.
It does. And comparing him to later Egyptians highlights this continuous interplay between local continuity and new migrations over millennia. It wasn't one or the other, it was both.
Of course, we have to remember this is still just one genome, right?
Crucial limitation, yes. This one individual from Nuwayrat might not represent everyone in the Old Kingdom across all of Egypt. We can't overgeneralize.
So what's needed next?
More genomes, many more, from different places in Egypt, different time periods, different social contexts if possible. That's the only way to build a truly detailed picture.
This is a fantastic start, but really just the beginning of rewriting that genetic history.
Exactly. It's a hugely important baseline, a proof of concept.
So if we had to boil it down, what's the key take-home message here?
I'd say it's this. The first whole genome from Old Kingdom Egypt reveals a surprisingly complex ancestry. It shows the foundational population wasn't isolated, but was a mixture of local North African heritage and a significant previously hidden genetic link to the distant Eastern Fertile Crescent.
A hidden connection brought to light.
Precisely.
And that really makes you think, doesn't it? What does this discovery, the more connected view of the ancient world, mean for how we understand the spread of cultures, technologies, maybe even ideas? How do these ancient groups really interact to build the civilizations we study?
It opens up so many new questions. A really exciting time for the field.
Definitely something to ponder. This episode was based on an open access article under the CC BY 4.0 license. You can find a direct link to the paper and the license in our episode description. If you enjoyed this analysis, the best way to support Base by Base is to subscribe or follow in your favorite podcast app and leave us a 5-star rating. It only takes a few seconds, but makes a huge difference in helping others discover the show. Thanks for listening.